Ah, yes, democracy. Because that's exactly what those within power care about. The democratic system. It couldn't possibly be about making sure that they could manipulate the levers of power consistently no matter the title that they were using. That's ridiculous that you would even assert that. What we understand is that the nature of what we see within the democratic system in the current age as we march headlong into the 2024 election cycle, well, it's that of chaos, because what you need to realize is many people who are the most steadfast and ardent believers of democracy itself, well, they're actually the people who have been sold a false bill of goods, as proven most recently by Democrats advocating for what? An open convention. As you know, Kamala Harris was Joe Biden's vice presidential pick and is now that of the nominee who has been bolstered by Joe Biden's presidency. This is something that is so crucial because with Joe Biden dropping out of the race, it should then allow Kamala Harris to access his war chest and have all of the Democratic donors and delegates flood behind her. But with Kamala Harris being such a disaster of a candidate, we see what? Oh, I don't know, perhaps an open convention being advocated for by many within the upper echelon of the progressive Democrat elite, akin to that of Barack Obama and Chuck Schumer. There are so many others now advocating for such, but what we see is in doing so, all they've done is defy the standards of democracy itself that they claim to care oh so much about, and in doing so have ripped the rug from beneath the feet of so many of the voters that actually believe in that system that they have espoused to care oh so much about for so long. So now let's go ahead and jump in and see what we've got with Kamala Harris's presidential run, and we'll start that off by checking out her first presidential ad.
In this election, we each face a question. What kind of country do we want to live in? There are some people who think we should be a country of chaos, of fear, of hate. But us, we choose something different. We choose freedom.
Freedom, freedom, I can't move. Freedom, cut me loose. Yeah. Freedom, freedom, where are you? 'Cause I need freedom too.
The freedom not just to get by, but get ahead. The freedom to be safe from gun violence. The freedom to make decisions about your own body. We choose a future where no child lives in poverty, where we can all afford health care, where no one is above the law. We believe in the promise of America, and we're ready to fight for it. Because when we fight, we win. So join us. Go to KamalaHarris.com and let's get to work.
I'ma keep on running 'cause the winner don't quit on themselves.
You see a political campaign ad like that and it just makes you go, wow, what a wonderful person Kamala Harris must be. I'm sure she's just absolutely lovely behind the scenes. I bet working for her, it must be a joy. Well, here we see from Zero Hedge that very well may not be the case. VP Kamala Harris had a 92% staff turnover during her first 3 years. Think on that for a moment. 92%. That's honestly impressive. She deserves an award for being such a rigid bitch. Here we see now from Business Insider, a former Kamala Harris staffer says aides have to endure a constant amount of soul-destroying criticism. Ah, yes. Seems like she's absolutely lovely. And what's so interesting about that soul-destroying criticism? Well, apparently, it was then levied at even the donor class. Here we see from Rolling Stone, Kamala Harris holds emergency call with Dem donors. As pressure builds for Joe Biden to step aside, eyes are turning towards the vice president. And the rumors that are circulating is that Kamala Harris was actually yelling at these donors saying, we have to get behind Joe. And they're all just like, no. You don't hold the power here. That's not how this works, which is so funny that you see someone, even Kamala Harris, who is within the upper echelon of the political ranks, still doesn't even fully realize the entirety of how this game works. That's funny. Jumping now, here we see from the New York Times, call with Harris struggles to reassure major Democratic donors. On a call, Vice President Kamala Harris told about 300 donors that there was little to worry about. Several listeners said they found the call to have little value. And what do we see? Them jumping ship from Joe Biden en masse, and not only that, but also refusing to endorse Kamala Harris as well. Here we see, ludicrous, donors leave call with Harris frustrated and annoyed. Interesting. The gathering of about 300 donors was meant to calm the concerns, but instead upset several who said it was badly organized, but didn't blame Harris herself. And she's not specifically to blame. The entirety of the upper echelon of the Democratic Party is falling apart at the seams because they put a literal corpse on marionette strings as their figurehead. You get what you get, and you're still going to end up throwing a fit. Here we see now from Forbes, major Democrat donors split on Kamala Harris' presidential run as small donations surge. And small donations did in fact surge, and we saw a record amount of donations roll through an Act Blue, and it makes you wonder, is it that it's going to be the ground game that's allowing so much of this to swell into that of giving Kamala so much money, or will the donors end up kicking into gear and thrusting all of their weight behind her? All I do know is many people within that of the average American voting populace, they're not willing to throw their weight behind Kamala, and specifically many of which being women, who was her targeted voting demographic. So now let's go ahead and throw it into an interview with some of these women being asked what they think about Kamala Harris.
How do you perceive Vice President Harris compared to President Biden in terms of competency and experience?
I think she's worse. She doesn't even know what's going on at the border.
Right.
And that's what she was supposed to be doing and in charge of. I mean, as a school teacher, if I did not do what I was supposed to be doing, you better believe my job would be in jeopardy. Well, it isn't. Not only was her job not in jeopardy, she was just handed a promotion.
Is there anyone that Kamala Harris could appoint as her vice president that you would find reassuring, would make you consider voting for her?
No. Never consider voting for her. No.
I would
And
do
not-
RFK Jr. way before her.
Yeah.
Same.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And she's not the first woman to run for the presidency, Hillary Clinton. I'm assuming no one voted for Hillary Clinton in 2016. So it's not necessarily going to sway you to vote for a woman in office. When do you think America will have a female president?
When there's a competent one.
Just, I don't get a good feel for her.
I think she's an idiot
Right.
Mary, why do you think that she's not that bright?
because she hasn't done anything in the time that she's had. We don't know anything about her as far as her 3 years so far in the White House. She's not real smart.
All right, well, can't really say I have any disagreements with those ladies. Kamala Harris most certainly dropped the ball when it came to the fact of dealing with the border, as she was certainly anointed the title of quote-unquote border czar by the media, and then both Democrats and Republicans ran with it, even including the Biden administration. And that's so remarkable. But you know what's even more remarkable? That once again, we see a politician put into a position of power, and they don't do what it is they're supposed to do to take care of their citizenry. Wow, what a surprise. Here we see from Axios, Harris border confusion haunts her new campaign. In early 2021, President Biden enlisted Vice President Kamala Harris to help with a slice of the migration issue, a move that has turned into one of the newly presumptive presidential nominee's first campaign headaches. And why would it be a campaign headache? Well, because the disaster of what we have with the massive influx of illegal immigrants into the country is something that is specifically tied to Kamala Harris and her campaign. And what we can see is that if this was the record that she had under that of her attempt to tackle this, at what point do you think it's going to be any better if she was going to be the president? Of course, people being presidents are nothing more than figureheads and puppets on marionette strings, but nonetheless, I digress. Here we jump over to the good old times. Kamala Harris was never Biden's border czar. Here's what she really did. And don't you worry, they'll claim that she was never the border czar, but what we have here is a congressional document that defies exactly that standard of what the media is trying to sell to you, which of course is nothing more than a half-truth at best. Here we see in the resolution, expressing the sense of the House of Representatives that Vice President Kamala Harris should be removed from her position as the head of the Biden administration's strategy to address the root causes of immigration. Whereas on March 24th, 2021, Vice President Kamala Harris was named border czar in charge of leading efforts to stem migration across the United States-Mexico border. Isn't that just remarkable? And people can claim, oh, well, she didn't know what she had to do. She didn't have the appropriate information. But oh, wait, I can guarantee you, my friend, that is most certainly not the case.
Kamala Harris knows what she needs to do. I was there. I gave her all of the policies that she needed, all of them, and she refused to implement them. She does not care about you. She does not care about the safety of this country. He does. This is the man for the presidency.
And there you have the president of the National Border Patrol Council openly stating that Kamala Harris was given all of the relevant and pertinent information to tackle this issue, and of course, she avoided doing so. And that is a huge thing to focus on, that if she's not going to tackle an issue like immigration that matters to the American people, why is it that she would tackle any other problems that matter to the American people, like the economy, the housing crisis, the fentanyl crisis, the veteran suicide epidemic? Why is it that she would be incentivized to tackle any of these problems if she continuously ascends through that of the hierarchical structure of government and political power without ever doing anything that actually assists those that she claims to be helping? Of course, using the moniker of freedom within her political ad while being a part of the system itself that stomps out that ideal into the ashes of history. Truly quite stunning, but not as stunning as the turn that we're seeing against immigration in the modern day. And I mean this when I say it. If you think these numbers are something, just give it a year. Just wait until you see what the rhetoric looks like in a year out of so many people who will have been activated into a far more totalitarian version of themselves, and thus they will advocate for government overreach and policies that will by all means tilt us into a more authoritarian future. Here we see from Gallup poll, in your view, should immigration be kept at its present level, increased, or decreased? Jumping in now for a bit more minutia, we can actually get a better understanding of how something like immigration is viewed in the perceptual understanding of the actual civilian populace within the United States. And once you start to realize how you can correlate these things with the ideal understanding of national security, then you start to truly paint the picture as to why so many people feel the way they do around things like immigration. And as you see the fact of national security and national safety and consciousness lowering, you will then see something like a decrease in support for immigration itself, whether it be legal or illegal. Here you can see the consistent line with no interruptions being that of the increased percentage over time. We can see the dotted line being the present level of support, and then you can see the dashed line being decreased. And what you can actually understand here that is so fascinating is when you jump over to the time scale of what you see happening in the 2000s, you actually realize that this dip that you see in support for the increase in legal immigration, this is done solely because of what? The actions of what was thrust upon the United States in 9/11, which is what caused this visceral reaction to immigration into the country. And as we consistently see people pouring into the country and we see all of these different crimes that are being reported on as happening by illegal immigrants, you then see something like that of the amount of people that are supporting the lowering of immigration into the country skyrocketing, as we see here by the number of people that support decreasing amounts of immigration into the United States is almost at a record high. And the thing that we need to pay attention to here is that, as I've already stated, the rhetoric and the standards of what are being demanded for in the future, even just a year down the line, will make these numbers look like child's play. And that child's play, what's so stunning about that is that you can also apply that same understanding to the mass influx of people that the UN most certainly would love to see pour into the West in the next decade. Here we see migration in the 2030 agenda. If you think you've seen anything yet, I promise you, buckle up, because the standards that these people want to see visited upon the world, by all means, defy the standards of what the citizenry of the West would like to see visited upon them. But does that matter? No, because as we know here, politicians don't serve you. They serve the oligarch class, the lobbyists, and those who pull the strings behind the scenes. I'm going to go ahead and call it there. Thank you for watching. If you got this far, thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. Tell me where I'm wrong in the comment section down below. Stay lovely, stay great, tell someone you love them, and never forget, it doesn't matter what side of the political aisle you're dealing with, left or right, Democrat, Republican, conservative, liberal, socialist, fascist. Every single one of these people that are trying to ascend through the hierarchical structure of ladder climbing through government, many of the times have been tainted by that process itself, and because politics is nothing more than the devil's game, these people very well may have been turned into nothing more than demons. So treat them as such. Thank you for watching. Stay lovely, stay great. Peace out.